Make sure to download Module 9 zip file and unzip the file. Now, midterm grades have been posted. It has three basic purposes. First, it's going to tell you where you are academically. It's not affecting your official GPA or financial aid in any way whatsoever. Double check and see if that all looks accurate. Also, it's going to give you opportunities to discuss with your instructors. And the third purpose is to let Kirkwood design programs that will help improve student success. So your first assignment is to make a video of your bedroom following the steps in this video link here. It shows you how to set up the bedroom to see it in different views and create a MP4 file, which you'll upload to Talon. Let me show you a quick example of what it will look like. As you make new scenes, make sure you put them in order so they'll look good in the video. Make sure you've got tags set up properly so you can make things visible or not visible, depending on the view. And if ever asked about making a new style, say yes, you'll make a new style. You will want to make one of the walls be separate from all the walls of the model. Not too different from what we did with the hotel model. So we can go look at it sideways. And again, the video shows you step by step on how to do that as well. Same thing with making a plan scene and what to be aware of when we make a plan scene. Just follow the steps again and you should be good. And then we're going to make things parallel projection, looking top down, having the walls shaded in. So again, all these things will be covered in that video link at the first slide. So the assignment is to make a video of your bedroom model. Now make sure you have all the pieces in place, the pictures and the furniture and such. And you're going to upload just the video file. I don't need the SketchUp file. And at least have 4 different views. A side view without a wall, where the ceiling is visible, but one wall is not, so you're looking almost like in a dollhouse-like look. An above view looking down, no ceiling at all, but walls visible. An interior view, as if you're standing in the space. And then a plan view. You can put them in any order, and if you need to, you can always add an intermediate scene to help out. We're going to be downloading some rendering programs. Some of the files can be large. It might take a long time to download. We want to make sure your computer does not go to sleep mode. So if you right-click on the desktop and select Display Settings, and then here, type the word Power, and then click on Power, Sleep, and Battery Settings. When you do, you get some options to look through. So Screen, Sleep, and Hibernate is what we like to look for. So as a laptop, these are some options that will show up on your screen in sleep. And so when it's plugged in, you can have the screen go to sleep after 10 minutes, and when plugged in, never. So it's always active as long as it's plugged in. You do want it when it's working off the battery that it will hibernate or go to sleep, but when it's plugged in, that'll give us the most amount of time to download files. There'll be 2 programs we'll be installing. One of them is Enscape. We'll be working on this program for our renders, and the educational version is a 1-year subscription to the program. It ends up being about $150 for a year. Here's the link and download the file. It is the full version. So when you install Enscape, you'll not get an icon for the desktop. Instead, the program is going to run inside of SketchUp. Go to View Toolbars and check Enscape. And you can just move it and dock it up to the top. You will need to install the D5 render. It's free for student use. You will want to make sure your hardware specs are able to handle it, which it should be if you use the specifications provided by Kirkwood. It will ask you to install the D5 launcher, and then after you download the launcher and run it, it'll ask you to download the program itself. After you install the program, you'll also need to install SketchUp Live Sync. It will create a toolbar that you can find under View Toolbars, and then you can dock it on the top as well. You want to make sure to use your power cord when we start rendering, because rendering programs, those graphic intensive programs, tend to use a lot of power. If you're only using your battery, the computers will kind of reduce the power to certain components to reserve battery life, and we've noticed that it just runs very sluggish. You get a message from your friend stating that they're going to be moving into a 580 square foot efficiency apartment. The apartment is basically one large open space with a kitchen. And they took a picture of it showing the morning sun coming in so you can see what it looks like. What your friend wants you to do is to create an interior design for the new place. Now, of course, you can't modify the cabinets or rip out the flooring, but you can paint the walls. We're saying that the landlord said you can do that. So your assignment is to look online or scan books to show your friend design ideas. And you'll start off the Word file with one sentence to describe your overall design intent. What are you trying to accomplish? And we need this one sentence at the top so that we know how we can evaluate your design choices. After you get that one sentence that kind of gives you the theme of your project, then collect at least 5 images and insert them into the Word file. Write a sentence for each one of those 5 images describing how they support the design intent. These images should be 5 different things. So one could be perhaps a color palette, something else could be a piece of furniture, something else could just be maybe a painting that has a mood you want to capture. And we're not necessarily copying them, we're striving for that look. The pictures are there to determine whether they would be good or not fit for that design intent. So here's a good example. If for some reason, which I don't believe this is going to happen, but for some reason you want to create a dark, spooky atmosphere in your friend's place, then if you decide to pick flowery pictures and light fabric choices, we would question whether they would be good choices for that. So you should always start off with the design intent. What is your overall design intent for this project? And then get 5 different images to support it. So what is this design intent supposed to look like? Well, here's an example. I chose this because I saw it on the internet and it looks neat. That isn't a design intent. Better, working in an open space can be difficult because of the different materials on the surfaces that are within view all the time, making the space visually cluttered. I propose a minimal color palette and furniture pieces that are sleek and simple. So now you can see that with that design intent, I can evaluate, and you can evaluate, whether some of the choices you're making is going to support it or maybe get in the way of it. So let's go and open up that small cabin that we used to Module 6. If you can't locate it, you can open up the small cabin shadow in the session folder, and we're going to take a look at shadows and geolocation for this project. So one of the first things we're going to do is click on the Shadow tab, and what it does is it puts us into the space inside the project, and we'll work on making our shadows in this space. Then you can click up here to activate the shadows, or you can also go to the shadows over here and activate it. If you don't see the shadows over here, go to Window, Default Tray, and make sure Shadows is checked. You can move the slider here for the different months of the year, and this slider for the different time of the day. You can actually type it in here exactly, so you have exact dates, exact time. And this is how light or dark the shadows are. I usually leave this all default. SketchUp is doing the calculations that would have actually been manually done in the past. Once you have longitude and latitude, you could go to charts that would calculate where the sun would be located, the angle, and there were formulas so you locate these shadows and be accurate. Clicking on the Shadow Scene tab makes the shadow active for our locale. So since we're stationed in Iowa, this is the shadow that we expect to see in our area at 9:45 in the morning. But let's say we want to have the shadows accurate at a different area. Well, we can geolocate our model to a different place. We can either do it by File, Add Location, or we could do it by Window, Model Info, Geolocation, Add Location. It'll automatically start to where our locale is based. Let's say we're going to put this in Denver, Colorado. So we'll put that Denver, Colorado, click on that, and it'll put us into the Colorado map, and that's where they'll put us in just a generic center point of the city. Let's say we're going to go into this area here. So I'm going to zoom up by using the scroll wheel, and I'm going to click and drag this a little closer. I'm going to zoom up. Let's say we're going to go into this city park here. Click and drag. And let's say we're going to go right into this area, let's say. Once we have a location roughly where we want, click on Set Geolocation. And then we can scroll out a little bit and click on Add Context. Clicking and dragging the corners here will bring us some context. If you just drag in the middle, just moving the map around. And you can see that there are certain buildings that are also going to be able to come into this particular map. When you're done, just have a few buildings as selection. Click on Import Site Context. And it's bringing this data right into SketchUp. Close. So now we are set to this location, this latitude and this longitude in Colorado. Let's do some extents. You can see the buildings we brought in. We brought the site in. We have, a map here showing where the streets are going to be and so forth, and the walkways. We have new tags. And by the way, this is locked, so we can't move it around by mistake if we move things. So that's kind of nice. We've got what's called elevated site and a flat site. The default is the flat site, which means everything is like on one plane. But we can also see how buildings would be in an elevated site. So you can see there is going to be some sort of slope in the site. Looking at the difference, you can see that, in our locale, at that time of the morning, the shadows are up much higher. In the Denver area, the shadows are just a little bit down lower. And that kind of makes sense because of where it's located in relation to us. Well, let's go put this back in Cedar Rapids. So if we go to File, Add Location, I can go ahead and just hit this little trash can to get rid of this geolocation and clear it out. And it clears out all that data we have brought in. Then we go to Window, Model Info, Geolocate, or again, you can go to File, Add Location. Either way gets us to this dialog box. And now we can type in, let's say, Cedar Rapids. Click on that. Again, it takes us to the middle of the town. And this time, you can add your own address if you like. I'm going to go ahead and move this pin to Green Square Mall here on site. So we're going to put the building somewhere here, and click on Set Geolocation. So it's the same settings as before. We're going to add context. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of click out here and get some of the buildings around the square. And these buildings that we get are basically just blocks. But once you go to the site, or if you go to like Google Earth and get pictures from the site, we can add those pictures onto the faces and maybe make them more realistic. But for general purposes, it's pretty good. Import site context. So now we have ourselves geolocated. Close. Go ahead and click on Shadow then. Come inside. And now let's go ahead and apply these shadows with this locale. So let's put the shadows back on. And let's go ahead and set the date and the time for these shadows. This is the date and time that's set right now for this view. Let's go ahead and change the date and time here. Let's go for 8:30 a.m. on 12/21. Let's rename this tag then. 12/21 8:30 a.m. Press enter. Then right click and update. So now this shadow will be set for this time and this date. We could also have gone to Scene Manager and have updated it this way. Now let's add a new shadow setting. Let's make it 4 p.m. and same date. Then let's make a new scene. Click on the new scene here. Let's put it 1221. And so now we can go here and click on the tabs. So if we click on the 8:30 tab, 4 p.m. tab, I can see how the light moves in this room throughout the day. I found it interesting that this looks like there's some shadow going on here. So let's zoom extents real quickly. And we can now see how the building shadows are affecting our location. If we go monochrome, we can see it a little bit better too. So that's what's happening. This building's shadow is going to fall over here. If that was important, we may want to relocate the project. Also, we would definitely want to make sure we have the right height here. Remember, these are just kind of basic shapes, and they're expecting you to take this on your project and look at the site and make it the right heights. Nonetheless, this is what we're at, and so this is the way the sun's going to work through this space. But it's good to know. It's good to know that there'll be some shadow coming in from adjacent buildings at this time of day. So let's say we want to show the client the animation here of the sun moving in the space. To do that, I don't want to have all these other scenes there in the way of the animation. I just want to have that morning, evening kind of pass through the day. So what I need to do is I need to take them out of animation. So I can do them all individually, but what works really well is to click on one of them, like the last one in the row, go all the way to the top, hold the Shift key and click the topmost one, and notice they are now all selected, and then take off this button right here. As you can see up at the top here too, they now have these parentheses giving us the visual clue that they will not be included in the animation. Let's look at a trial run of this animation. So click on the first scene tab, View, Animation, Play. So it loads up a little bit, then we have it going. Good, that looks good. Well, okay, now it's going backwards too. That would not be the case. The sun doesn't go backwards and forwards throughout the day. So I'm going to stop that a second and see if I can't adjust this a little bit. If we go to View, Animation, Settings, let's see what the settings are. All right, so we have enable scene transitions, and that's good because that what has the sun's coming across. If we didn't have that, it would be just like 8:30 and then 4 and then go back to 8:30. So that we like. But instead of being so fast going through the room, let's make it like a 5 seconds. So from beginning to end, it'll go 5 seconds. And the scene delay is how it pauses between scenes. And we just need to see the sun moving. There's no need to pause or look at it. So I'm just going to say 0 seconds. All right, let's try this again. View, Animation, Play. And again, it's going to load up a little bit first, and then it'll start moving. Oh, this is it's definitely better movement across, but it's going back again. So that we'll have to address when we export it out. It's a setting that we can use when we export. All right, click on Stop. That looks good. Click on 8:30 in the morning, get it all back to where it was before. Let's go to File, Export, Animation. And I'm going to put in the Assignments folder and in Module 9. If by any chance you haven't made a Module 9 assignment folder yet, you can just kind of right-click and New Folder, or you can just click up here, New Folder. I'm going to leave the name the same. It's going to be an MP4 file. That'd be fine. And under Options, let's take a look at that a second. So here's the resolution and so forth. I mentioned before you could have higher resolution if necessary. For our purposes, the 720 is just fine. And then I usually leave the frame rate alone. But this loop to starting scene is what's moving it back and forth. So if I take that off, it should be a smooth transition from beginning to end. Let's click OK. And let's click on Export. And now we wait for it to develop the frames. And let's go to our SketchUp folder. Go to our assignments, Module 9, I'm going to double click on this to see what it looks like in animation. And you can see right here that it's going perfectly fine and it's stopping. Another palette, along with shadows and scenes, that I like to explore today is styles. Styles are a collection of display settings of how the model looks. And we've used some of them already, changing to monochrome mode or changing line by axis. And SketchUp can run your model in a variety of styles. As a matter of fact, if you change the line visibility or shadows and fog in such a way with good models, it can look like a rendering even though no post-processing was done and no rendering program was used. To get to styles, go to the default tray, styles. If it's not visible here, if you go to window, default tray, and make sure styles is checked, then it'll show up. And then when in styles, if you click down here, you can see all the different kinds of styles that are available to you. And it includes a certain different kind of look. Oh, there's a backside. And some of the default styles. We got some color styles. So there's many different ways to show the project. There's just a few examples here of different ones that are out there. Now, in addition to the default styles and default settings, we can edit these as well. And we've done that as well. For example, the watermark setting, right? We can do display watermarks, so maybe not see them. This affects all the line works. So we can add things like back edges to some of our line work, or we can do profiles where certain lines get a little thicker than others. And we can change just how thick they are, you know, how bold they are. It's the kind of look that we're shooting for. It's a way to control the look. Styles, and click on the home button. I mean, you can see all the different styles that we have played around with. And so, since none of these have that style, I can go to Window, Model Info, Statistics, and Purge Unused. And all those extra styles are now just gone out of the model here. And it'll be a smaller model because of that. Another style setting that can add realism to the scene is this photoreal style. If you click on it, it'll ask us if we want to activate that. You click OK. After a little while, it looks something like this. And this background can be changed using the environments tray. If you don't have it here, go to Window, Default Tray, and make sure it's checked off on the list here. And there's all different kinds of environments to add to this. And it basically just makes things look more real. You know, you can even have interior styles of interior spaces or so forth. In the Edit tab, you can do the rotation in case you want the sun to be a little different orientation. And you can see that the model, you know, responds to the sunlight location based off of this image. Clicking on the Home button, you can see all the different styles that we've been clicking around to see things. And to go back the way it was, you can click on this one right here. Typically, we'd want to model in this style and maybe use that environments one later on. Playing around with this, you mix and match your own different kind of settings. You can create a unique style and save it. When you download styles from online, they usually come in zip format, and you would unzip it. They are a .style format, and then put it into a folder. And I recommend making a folder called New Styles or My Styles and putting stuff in there that's separate from the default that comes with SketchUp. And then you can just click here, and there would be a setting of My Styles available to you. And all the ones you've downloaded into it would be there. Now, styles look neat, but they also can slow down the processing. So what SketchUp's done is they've created certain styles that are easier on the graphics card. You'll see some of them have these little clocks in the corner. That means that those styles will be quick to model with. So your assignment is to open up the hotel file and go to the North Scene tab and look for 3 different styles. I'm not asking you to make unique styles. I want you just to use the styles that are already in the SketchUp program. every time you find one you like, make a new scene. So we leave the original one alone and we just make a new scene every time you have a new style. And then just make sure that that new scene is not included in animation. Open up your hotel model and go to the North Scene tab and use this scene tab to create 3 different styles. Look in here instead of the different styles. I would look in different groupings. Maybe you find one you like here and look something like this. In this particular style, we're seeing these section planes. So I always want you to take them off. Make sure that whatever style you end up using, that you do not have section planes visible. But if you like this view, for example, go to your scenes and add a scene. Save it as a new style. And then give it a name like North Style 1. And then make sure it's not included in animation. So when you go to North, it's like how we left it. North Style 1 will be the one you chose. And then there's different ones in here. Some are sketchy edges, some are straight lines. Some are color sets. But again, if you do see the section plane, you need to take them off before you make a scene. Once you have the style you like, you need to export out an image. So File, Export, 2D Graphic, and I would look into your assignments folder to save the graphics. It could be a JPEG, or you could have it be a PNG file, Portable Network Graphic. Either one of those is fine. Give it a name that makes sense. Style 1 and then your initials, or Style 2 and your initials, Style 1 and your initials, whatever. And hit Export. Make sure it is in your module folder, Module 9, and hit Export. And so now then we have an image file there, and that is what you upload to Talon. Remember, your model is going to get larger, so Window Model Info, Statistics, and Purge Unused when you're done. So I want to talk to you about Ruby scripts now. They're basically a programming language developed in the 1990s. And what they can do is they can extend the capabilities of SketchUp. These extra capabilities are in files called plugins. And you get to them through the extension warehouse. And let's take a look at how to use Extension Warehouse. You go to Extensions, Extension Warehouse. You may need to log in. You can search by categories. And there's some generic categories that are there. If you architecture, landscape architecture, rendering. Picking a category such as architecture will show you plugins that are designed to help that industry. Also, under extensions, you have the extension manager. And this is where all of the plugins are listed and whether they're enabled or disabled, and whether you can install or install them, depending on if you want the home page or the manage page. These are the ones that come by default with SketchUp. And when we add more, they will show up on this list. In the manage, every so often, they will have updates to them, and they'll show up here that there's something that needs to be addressed, and then you just update them as you go to keep them up to date with the latest. To fully remove the plugin, go to the manage and then uninstall. Otherwise, it's still in your computer and it's just not activated right away. So sometimes you might have plugins you're not using regularly, but you want to keep it there. So you just keep it under the home tab. You would just have it disabled and then enable it when necessary. There are sites as well as the extension warehouse to search for plugins. smustard and sketchucation.com resources plugin store. Using these sites, you would have to manually download a file and install it. And we'll do one of those in this session. And if you go to this video here, it shows you how to install files. When you look at the plugin though, look at the description, make sure it's going to do what you need it to do. The description will tell you whether it's free or whether it's a trial program. It'll tell you when it loads onto SketchUp, whether it will be a pull down, a menu, or a toolbar. Every plugin you install will slow down the startup SketchUp. That's why you may want to disable some of them. Here's some of the ones that I use pretty regularly. And it's very interesting that one of them that I use is no longer needed because SketchUp 2025 has included that as part of it. We'll take a look at these together and kind of see the pluses of them. So go to the extensions, extension warehouse, and look up for the extension called cleanup. Press enter. And you'll see cleanup 3 here. Click on it and it tells you a little bit what it's about, what it does, the overview and so forth. Notice this is free, but the developer says, hey, I'll be happy if you donate a cookie or a beer if you find my plugin useful. Now, it's not required for you to donate anything, but it's sort of a tip of the hat saying, hey, if you find it useful, pass a few bucks my way. And this is the plugin by TomTom, the character that shows up every time we start a new file in SketchUp. When you're looking at this extension warehouse cleanup 3, down here they show you different things you can clean up. And then over here, they have like a little movie that if you run on it, it kind of shows you the step. So some of the extensions will have that. You can open it up in YouTube and see it fully. Click on install. And it says it's not compatible with this version of SketchUp. I have found that Cleanup 3 does indeed work with this version of SketchUp. So click on proceed. It's going to ask you this, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, we want to continue. Now, it says also then, after its extension's installed, that I also need this, TT-Lib2. We need to have that installed. Whenever you see that, it means that this program is using another library file, and it needs to be installed as well. So click on download for that one, and install that one. You sure you want to do this? Yes, we want to do this. And that's good. Let's see how that extension works. If we look under extensions, we have cleanup, and these are the things that you can clean up on your model. And you can check them off here as well. What it does is it creates a smaller file size. And even though they did warn you that it may not work, it does still do quite a bit to clean up your model. So this one's under here. Again, there is no toolbar under the extensions. It's here. And if you go to Extension Manager, you'll see now not only is cleanup here, but the library file from TomTom is here. It's enabled. Then when there's updates, it'll show up over here that there's something to be managed, and you can update it. Let's look at another one. Extensions, Extension Warehouse. And it's called Push Line. Add to be a push line right there. Click on it. This is another free one. It shows you what to do. It basically, you can make a line be a plane. It's just kind of handy sometimes. Go ahead and click install. Even though it says it's not compatible, it probably is. This shows up because it's not officially labeled that's compatible with the current version. So let's see how that's going to work. There is no toolbar here. If you go to View, Toolbars, there it is, Abideo, and there it is. Looks like a little box with a little arrow stuck to it. And we can just kind of move it in position here, and it'll be here for us. So if I draw a line, if I try to push-pull on it, just regular push-pull, of course it doesn't work. It's a line, not a plane. But with this technique, I can click on this line and push-pull it up, and lo and behold, it creates a plane. And that becomes very handy because I can use a regular push-pull and keep on going from there. But if it is a line that I want to for some reason just make this plane to occur, this is a good program that can do that. The other one is called Auto Invisible Layer. Let's take a look at that one. Extensions, Extension Warehouse, Auto Invisible. So What's interesting about this one is that whenever you make a new scene, automatically the new tags that are created are made visible throughout the whole project. But you may actually want to create a tag that is only visible in one scene. And so this program did that for you. You'd be able to create a scene and then make it visible or not visible on the future scenes. But now you can do this with SketchUp with a default program. Let's see how that works. So let's make a shape. And then let's go ahead and make a tag. Shape 1. Let's go ahead and select all the planes, and I'm going to right click Entity Info, and I'm going to put it on Shape 1. So now if I make a scene and I orbit to here and make a scene again, of course Shape 1 is in both scenes. But let's say I'm going to create something over here that maybe I want to show the client. And let's make a little circle here. Right? Now before we go much further, I'm going to go over here to this, and I'm going to take off Show New Tags. So now I've hit a plus and create a new shape called Shape 2, and then put this whole element into the Shape 2 tag. Look what happens when I click on Scene 2. It's not there. And nor is it on Scene 1. This was a new tag that was added after I set this Show New Tags. If I wanted to, I can click on here, make it visible, go up here and update. So it's visible in this view, but when I go to this view, it's still not visible. This is a really handy feature, and I'm glad they incorporated it into SketchUp. And it will be very useful when showing more than one option to a client in the same model. I think for most of the times, you're going to want to have Show New Tags. Let's look at some more types of plugins we can use, but we're not going to necessarily install it into our SketchUp program. So STL files helps you create three-dimensional objects. So you see 3D printers, they use STL formatting. And so you create a SketchUp shape and then make it an STL type of file, export it out as that, and then you can take it to a printer to print it out. And when you install it, it's under the File menu will appear two different things: Export STL under File, and Import STL to be able to import those as well. In the module folder, there's another folder called SketchUp STL, which contains two PDFs that talks about things to consider in developing SketchUp models to be printed out in the real world. Another good plugin is 1001 Bits. There's a pro version and a freeware version. The freeware version comes with a lot of things, and it automatically generates things like roofs, rafters, and so forth. So something worth looking into. Profile Builder is also a cool tool because it creates repetitive elements like railings, the balusters of railings and so forth, the pilasters and things like that. There's a little bit of a learning curve here, but it creates these three-dimensional objects relatively easily. This one does cost money. Skimp is another plugin that is very good. It simplifies some of the modeling in SketchUp. So here's an example of a piece of furniture, a sofa found online. You can see how detailed it is and how many different kinds of surfaces there are. And if it's a close-up view, that might be worth it. But if this is sitting in an open model that doesn't have, you're not going to be that close to it, simplifying it would reduce the number of polygons, which will make the file size smaller. And again, rendering is all about a small file size. And you can see that you press some parameters and all of a sudden your file gets a lot smaller. And these lines wouldn't be visible either way, but you can see you can still get a good approximation of what's there without going overboard on the file size. Sketchy Physics and MS Physics are interesting because they make your SketchUp model animated. And there's a lot of places here on the YouTube and plugin site and so forth. There's even a PDF book that you could download that talks about how to use Sketchy Physics and MS Physics. And you can see some examples here. Another site that is not free, but worth thinking about is this extension called Sketch This. It does primarily kitchens, and it lays out kitchens, and then you can show the client. Some more extensions used to clean up the model. Hopefully you can see that it's important to keep your model size small and to clean it up regularly. So there's some you can look at. If you find them helpful, that'd be great. So what's the assignment about these plugins? I want you to go to the extension warehouse, and I want you to go to one of these, or to one of these two sites, either one is fine, and pick a plugin that you think is good to have. One that we did not talk about in class, so don't show me Skimp or Cleanup 3 or something like that. And then write in a Word file why it's good to have, where you found it and why it's good to have. And a good example, here's a good example. Plugin, Cleanup 3, found in the extension warehouse. So if it's in the extension warehouse, that's all you've got to say, because we can search through it. But if it's for Sketchucation or S-Mustard, you have to type in the URL. Just copy and paste that. And then why is it good? It's a good plugin because it cleans up your SketchUp model. It makes it smaller so it's faster to load. That's it. That's all I need for your assignment. The name of the plugin, where it is found, and why it is good to have. And just remember, these cannot be one of those plugins because we've talked about it in this class. Our next assignment is to make two components of yourself or a loved one to use in your models. One of the components will be photorealistic, and the other one will be like SketchUp people, sort of cartoony. I will take the digital file that was sent to me, and I will crop it, and I'll also bring down the DPI, the dots per inch, and it'll make it a much smaller size, as you can see from this example, where really much of the loss, there is no real loss to the file, and yet it's going to be a much smaller SketchUp file when it's done. Now, I would have sent it back to you through submission review, so make sure you go to course content submission review, scroll down to submission review, or I may have sent it back to you as a return through your email. Now, if you didn't upload one, I'd like you to take one before you start this assignment and send it in, because I would like to resize it for you so the file does not get to be too large. And then we can follow along doing the following steps. So you want to start a new project, and I want you to make sure that this is checked. It should be checked. You want new text typically to be visible, so I want to make sure you do that. And I want you to create a rectangle. I want you to orbit kind of straight on. Click on the origin, move across, and type in 36 for 36 inches wide, and then the height of the person. So it's just going to be a flat little plane. Then we go File, Import, and go into whatever folder you saved the file I gave you, and you want to import it as a texture. Click down here, and then go up to the height there. Click, because I would have cropped it to be from the feet all the way up. Let's go ahead and save this. No. So then what we need to do is go around the perimeter using the line tool. Go from the outside edge and then click around the perimeter. Make sure you see that little line as we go. Every now and then you may want to go ahead and go to monochrome mode to see how it's coming along. Use the scroll wheel to zoom up and get close. And I like using the straight line tool better than the free line tool, because it'll give us these points we can connect a little bit better. Just like everything else, you don't want too many points, because that creates too many edges. If you did it correctly, it should close, but you can see that didn't happen. And as soon as I orbit it out, I can see exactly what happened. I moved out away from the plane. And so I kind of have to get rid of these lines here and go back again. So you want to make sure that as you work on this, that you are not moving in the green orientation, because once you are, see, if you like right now, that's green, that's off the board. You want to be on the surface if possible. And you can see right now, as soon as I closed it, look, it became a thin line. I can now select this, delete it, and work my way through. So I would like to go around the whole perimeter of this person. As I'm finishing up here, every now and then I'll go back to monochrome mode and see how things are. And then just just delete the extra line there. If you have any space between the arms and the body or anything like that, go ahead and do them, because it's good to be able to see through that. You only want to see the perimeter of the shape. Go ahead and delete TomTom. We don't really need him here. All right, once you have this all written out and everything is all around the perimeter, is all good, then you File, Save As, go into your assignments folder. I would save it first as non-photo-me, and then your initials, and then File, Save As, Photo-me, and your initials. So you got non-photo-me and photo-me, your initials. Now, once it's saved, I can finalize this component. Double-click to select the surface and the edges. Right-click, Make Component. I would call it, give it my name and description. You know, I am a Kirkwood student. Don't need to glue to any surfaces, don't need to cut openings, but I do always want to face camera. Always face camera. And shadows will face the sun, so it looks right, and then replace section component. And so now, as I orbit, I would stay facing the camera. Now, one thing for the photo-me that I'd like you to do is make the edges, the lines here, not visible. There are two ways of doing this, either by hiding the lines or putting the lines on a tag and make the tag not visible. Either way, the first step is to select the component and get into the component. I can double-click and double-click again, and then hold down the Shift key and click once to deselect the surface. So I've got all the edges. And I can go to Edit, Hide. And you can see by doing that, it almost looks more realistic. Another way of doing it, we go through tags, where I create a tag, name it line work, or something like that, and make that tag not visible. Double-click into the component, Edit, Unhide All, and then double-click, hold the Shift key and click once more, go to Entity Info, and put them under line work. They're gone. Now, what's the advantage of this? Well, the advantage is I can turn back on easily, right? It's just one click of a button now. Whereas if I go to View, Hidden Geometry, View, Unhide, I have to go inside the component. I'm not in the component now, it can make the line work visible or not. If I had as I hit them, you saw I had to get into the component first to unhide or to hide them. This looks pretty good, but there's something strange about the way this component moves back and forth. He seems to be rotating from a point outside the center. Looking at TomTom, he's moving around from the center. So if you double click, you'll see why. Look at the origin where it's at. It's in the middle. So going back to our component, if I double click and get inside the component, select it all, M for move, and move it from like here to the origin, and click away, that resets the origin of the component. And now it's moving around the center point. If I put it to the side, it is still moving around the center. Let's go ahead and save this. What we could have done at the beginning when we made this rectangle is to have moved it from the midpoint to the origin, and then made sure that when we applied the photo, we would have right-click Texture Position, and it slid it over enough to be centered. Right-click Done. And would have started my perimeter that way. This is done. This photo-me is done. We go File, Save. Now what I want you to do is to take a model, for example, your hotel model, go to like the North Scene tab, and go File, Import. Click the photo-me, import, and put yourself there. So it's inside of a model. And then you could do File, Save As, Hotel, Photo Me. And I put in the assignments 9 in the modules 9 folder. So I know that I'm there in the hotel. Let's go to File, Open. And let's go to the non-photo me now. So we're going to make the other one be a non-photo me. And think about the way they do SketchUp people, right? There's not a lot of facial features. It's mostly some of the garments. It's not complicated either. It's not super detailed, relatively simple layout of flat color. So we'll do that technique. So non-photo me is a little bit more. Remember, this is still just line work. There's no component here. So I'm going to select it, M for move, click and go across, tap the control key. I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to work on this side, and on this copy, I'm going to use this as my guide. So here, what I'll start doing is more line work. So I'll start with the line tool, click here, and again, stay away from the green. You might need to orbit. And you want to go basically all the way around the shape. So as you finish your drawing here, everything looks like it's good, go back to monochrome, make sure all the pieces are there and that they are separated. This looks pretty good. And then what you'll do is you'll select a color. That's kind of the color that you're shooting for. So there's a little bit of guesswork involved here. And for example, then fill this in, right? So basically I replaced whatever image I have there with that solid color. Then I'd go to the edit and use this color on screen and zoom up on this side and click there. So now this has gotten just a little bit more like this color. Same thing for the skin tone. Find a skin tone that's about right. Paint the face. I can see how this is way too dark, but that's okay. And so I can then go and use the edit and go this one, the one by the screen. Zoom up and then just click around till you find a color that's about right. That feels like it's the right color. It might take a while because usually the face has got quite a bit of range. That looks about right. And you can tweak this just a little bit. I think it's a little bit darker. And maybe less of that peach color. But then I can just use this color and finish the rest of the body with those lines. And continue doing that throughout. So you find a color you think is pretty good. And for this shirt, for example, I don't need to have a bunch of stripes on it. So I can just kind of do this. And then I can go back to the edit, go here, find a color. So I finished all the pieces here and it looks pretty good. Let's go back to monochrome mode. All right. And you're done painting the last part here. You double checked it to see how it works. You can go ahead and delete this. We don't need this anymore. And we follow the same steps. Now this time, I do still want those lines. This is done photo me. So now we're almost done. So I just want to select this whole person, M for move, grab roughly the midpoint here, and then come across to the origin. And now I can go ahead and right click, make component. And we can make it the same as before. I would call it, give it my name and description. You know, I am a Kirkwood student. Don't need to glue to any surfaces, don't need to cut openings, but I do always want to face camera. Always face camera. And shadows will face the sun, so it looks right, and then replace section component. Click away, and then you'll see that the person is on the center, rotating about the center. Put it back to the center and save the file. Always say yes to that. And then let's go ahead and open up a model. Let's open up my bedroom. And I would go ahead and File, Import. And I would do the non-photo.me file and put it like right here. Again, remember as you work on it, sometimes you'll need to orbit a little bit to see mistakes that could happen. And I even made a special video here that you can click on it. This particular one was a very tricky one. And again, if you're having some major troubles with yours, you're welcome to send it to me as file attachment via email. But you can see I had to make a lot of little lines on the perimeter just to see where the error was. Eventually it worked out, but you can see the different things you have to take into account. What I have done in the past is actually placed a client's head on a body I found in 3D Warehouse and put it in there. And it's kind of interesting when you do that, they kind of see it and say, oh, there I am. It's just interesting how they react to that, and they can kind of see themselves in the space. So the assignment is to place a photorealistic and a non-photorealistic component into your models. Save them as different names, please. Again, the hotel would be a different name, the bedroom, different name. And then export image files from these models. File, Export 2D Graphic, and choose an image type, either JPEG or PNG. So, assignment recap. At the beginning of the next session, you really should have installed Enscape and the D5 render, because we'll be using Enscape in 2 sessions and D5 render in 3 sessions. Make sure they're running properly. Also, make sure you have your bedroom with scenes set up and export a video of that with at least the views noted in the lecture, and upload that MP4 file to Talon. Make a photorealistic model of yourself and a non-photorealistic model of yourself or a loved one, and put them in your SketchUp models. Upload those SketchUp models and image files extracted from those SketchUp models to Talon. Upload a Word file. Basically, we want one sentence to describe an overall design intent for that efficiency project. Then collect 5 images and insert them into the Word file with a sentence describing how they support the design intent. Upload a Word file of a good plugin to have, where you can find it and how you would use it. And then for the 3 styles assignment, in SketchUp, use Window Default Tray Styles and find 3 different types of artistic views using that North Scene tab of the hotel room. And then export out images and upload those to Talon.